let's jump into our next key concept. We'll do a little bit of a quick overview discussion here, and then we'll elaborate some more as we get into the various projects. We talked about variables. Now, let's talk about logical statements. We're going to introduce some if structure. If something's true, then perform this task. If it's not true, then do something else. Or check for another condition and perform this task if that's true. But we want to create some logic. This is going to open up the possibilities for creating some type of flow within your VBA code. All about conditions. Check to see if it's true. If it is, then do this. If not, then let's move on to something else. So there's actually a couple different ways to be able to create conditional statements such as this, but what we're going to work with is perhaps the most common one. We're going to work with the if statement. Now I've still got the previous project open that we've been playing around with, this fun with procedures. Now I'm going to modify it a little bit to start to discuss this if logic. Here's the scenario. I get a value somehow, whether it's from an active cell or it's from some user input or it's from some other location. It's a numeric value that I now get in. I want to store that inside the variable, and then I want to check to see what that value is. I want to say something like, if it's greater than 20, then I want to output this value. If it's not greater than 20, then I want to do something different. Okay? Take a look. This is using some conditional statements to create some logic within your code. So let's say user input, I'm going to make that equal to 21. Okay? So we got our variable already. We created that earlier. I've got my user input. I'm now making it equal to this numeric value here. And I'm going to come down right below that line, and I'm going to drop in some logic here. I don't just want to output that value. I want to check to see what that value is. Are you more than 20? Then I want to do something. So I'm going to say if, this is where our if logic or if statement comes into play, if user input, that's the name of our variable that holds that value. If user input is greater than 20, there's my condition. I'm checking that value. If user input is greater than 20, then, and I'm going to drop down a couple of lines, and I'm going to end the if. So here's my initial if statement. My first line specifies my condition. If this is true, then do something. We're going to tell it what to do right here. And then when it's all done, we're going to end the if. The beginning, the ending. So I'm going to drop in between, and I'm going to say, well, if that's true, then we'll say ActiveCell.value equals access granted. All right, let's make this window a little bit bigger here. There we go. So if user input is greater than 20, then we'll change the active cell, whatever the active cell is, whatever cell that is, its value is equal to access granted. Well, what if it's not? What if it's not greater than 20? Well, then we can add an else. So now I'm going to say, if, check this condition, if it's true, then do this. Well, if it checks the condition, and let's say this is not true, it's something less than 20, then just ignore this and jump down to the else and do what we tell you to do here. So I'm going to come down here, I'm going to take this line, and I'm going to paste it up here. We'll just output what they put in. So if it's not greater than 20, then we're just going to get whatever they typed in. So let's try this out. So I got my two windows here. Let's get them side by side each other. I'm going to go ahead and run the procedure. So I click into there. I'm going to go ahead and hit the play button. Watch my cell over here. I'll hit play. And look at that. Access granted. User input greater than 20, which it is, 21, then I get the output. Cool. Well, what if it's not? What if I put an 18 in there? right? And I go run this. Let's go to a different cell. I go click into my procedure. I hit the run button. 19. So it completely ignored this, right? Because it wasn't greater than 20. It jumped to the else and it performed this action. I got back my 19. This is your conditional statements. You get much more elaborate with this, and we're going to talk about this much more in depth as we get into some later projects where we're going to say, hey, if this is true, then perform these tasks. Well, if that's not true, then I want you to check another condition and see if that's true. We're going to use an else if. And we can keep going. You can build some complex conditional statements using if logic. If you've used the if function inside of Excel, it's very similar feel. Different way of writing it, but same thing in the end. Check in condition and then do one of two things based on whether or not that condition is true or false. This is your if statement. So try this out. Get some practice with it. Even elaborate. Play around with it. Get a feel for working with some logic and creating some flow within your code.